The water hit her like a shockwave, ice cold, sudden, meant to humiliate. 2 seconds later, a man twice her size was face down in the dust, and nobody saw her move. Not really. One moment she was dripping wet. The next, he was choking on sand and regret. That's when Sergeant Adrian Cole realized 3 things. First, Specialist Elena Vargas wasn't what she seemed. Second, the desert outpost he'd survived for 8 months had just become a lot more complicated. And third, Pike had just made the worst mistake of his career. But that wasn't the real problem. The real problem was what came after. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and stay with me until the very end of this story. Drop a comment with your city name so I can see how far this tale travels. Trust me, you're going to want to see where this goes. The thermometer outside the communications tent read 117 degrees Fahrenheit, but Adrian Cole had stopped checking 3 weeks ago. Checking didn't change anything. The heat at Red Basin Forward Operating Post didn't just press down. It crawled inside your gear, your boots, your skull. It made thinking slow, made patience thin, made people stupid. Adrian stood in the shade of the supply depot, watching the new specialist haul comm equipment across the yard. She moved with mechanical efficiency, no wasted motion, no pause for breath. Just lift, carry, set down. Repeat. Elena Vargas, 5'4", maybe 120 pounds soaking wet, dark hair pulled back tight enough to make your scalp hurt just looking at it. She'd arrived 4 days ago on a supply Chinook, stepped off into the furnace, and hadn't said more than 20 words to anyone since. "She talk yet?" Corporal Matthews asked, appearing beside Adrian with 2 bottles of water. He passed one over without looking away from Elena. "Define talk." "I mean like sentences. Conversation. Human interaction." Adrian cracked the seal on his water. It was already warm. "She answers questions, confirms orders. That's about it." "That's what I'm saying." Matthews took a long drink. "It's weird, man. Pike tried joking with her yesterday. Nothing. Stone face. He asked if she was always this serious." "What'd she say?" "She said yes." Matthews laughed, but it had an uncomfortable edge. Just that. One word, then went back to sorting cables like he wasn't there. Adrian watched Elena set down a heavy equipment case without so much as a grunt. Maybe she's just focused. Maybe she's a robot. Robots don't sweat. "You sure about that?" Matthews wiped his forehead. "'Cause I'm starting to think I'm melting from the inside out." The sun hammered down. Across the yard, Pike emerged from the barracks, loud before you even heard the words, just the way he moved. Big gestures, big laugh. Everything about Ryan Pike was turned up to 11, volume knob snapped off. Adrian felt his jaw tighten. "Here we go." Pike made a beeline for Elena. She was kneeling beside an open crate, checking serial numbers against a clipboard. Didn't look up when Pike's shadow fell across her work. "Yo, Vargas!" Pike's voice carried across half the base. "You eat lunch yet? Chow Hall's got mystery meat surprise." Which is funny because the surprise is that it's definitely not meat. Elena marked something on her clipboard. Didn't respond. Pike tried again, louder. "I'm saying the food sucks. You know, conversation? It's this thing humans do." She looked up then, not at Pike, at the equipment manifest in her hands. "I ate." "Cool, cool." Pike rocked back on his heels. "So what did you do before this? Before the army?" "Joined the army." Matthews snorted beside Adrian. "Okay, that's pretty good." But Pike wasn't laughing. His smile had gone tight at the edges. "Right, so you're just naturally fun at parties then." Elena stood, brushing dust off her knees. She was a full head shorter than Pike. Had to look up to meet his eyes. "I don't go to parties." "Yeah, I'm getting that vibe." Pike's tone shifted. Still joking, but with teeth now. "Must be nice, being all mysterious and shit. Very cool. Very, I'm not like other girls." "I'm not trying to be anything." Her voice stayed flat, factual. "I'm doing my job." "Well, excuse me for trying to be friendly." Pike spread his hands in mock apology. "God forbid someone tries to make this shithole a little less miserable." "It's not miserable. It's a forward operating post." Elena picked up her clipboard again. "If you expected comfort, You made poor career choices. The silence that followed had weight to it. Matthews whistled low. Oh man. Adrian felt something twist in his chest. Not quite amusement, not quite concern. Just interest. Nobody talked to Pike like that. Pike was loud, sure, but he was also 6'2", 200 pounds, and had the kind of casual physical presence that made people think twice about pushing back. Elena had just pushed back like she was stating the weather. Pike's face had gone red under his tan. You know what? Whatever. Enjoy your sad little lunch by yourself. He walked away. Elena went back to her inventory like the conversation had never happened. That was cold, Matthews said. I mean, Pike's annoying, but damn. Adrian didn't answer. He was watching the way Elena moved, precise, economical, like every action had been calculated for maximum efficiency and minimum effort. It reminded him of something, but he couldn't place it. She's going to have problems, Matthews continued. You can't just ice people out like that. Not here. Place is too small. Maybe she doesn't care. Everybody cares, Sarge, even when they pretend not to. Adrian finished his water, crushed the bottle. Get back to work, Matthews. Roger that. But Matthews was right about one thing. Red Basin was too small for long-term isolation. 73 personnel, not counting transient air crews. One mess hall, one rec tent, one gym that was really just a patch of desert with some weights and a pull-up bar. You couldn't avoid people even if you tried. And Elena wasn't trying. She just didn't engage. Man. That evening, Adrian found himself in the operations center reviewing patrol schedules with Lieutenant Kessler. The AC was broken, again, so they worked under the glow of computer screens and the lazy rotation of a single desk fan. New comms specialist settling in okay? Kessler asked without looking up from her laptop. Define settling in. Adrian. He leaned back in his chair, felt it creak under him. She's competent, more than competent. The relay system she set up yesterday works better than the last 3 configurations combined. But? No but, just an observation. Kessler finally looked at him. She was 31, sharp as broken glass, and had zero patience for bullshit. Cole, what's the observation? She doesn't talk to anyone. Is that affecting her work? No. Is she insubordinate? No. Is she causing problems? Adrian hesitated. Not yet. Then she's fine. Kessler went back to her screen. We're not running a summer camp. If she does her job and doesn't create drama, she's ahead of half the soldiers on this base. Fair point. Besides, Kessler's mouth quirked slightly. Maybe we could use someone around here who isn't constantly talking. Novel concept. Adrian thought about Pike's voice carrying across the yard, about Matthew's running commentary on everything, about the constant noise of 73 people crammed into a space designed for 50. Maybe silence wasn't the worst thing. The incident happened on day 6. Adrian was coming back from morning PT, 3 miles in full gear because Lieutenant Kessler believed in suffering as character building, when he heard Pike's voice echoing off the barracks. Come on, Vargas, it's just water. You looked hot. Adrian's stomach dropped. He rounded the corner and stopped. Elena stood in the center of the compound yard, soaking wet. Her uniform was drenched, water dripping from her hair, her sleeves, pooling around her boots. She held a radio component in one hand, still dry somehow, protected in a waterproof bag. Pike stood 10 feet away, holding an empty bucket and grinning like he'd just pulled off the prank of the century. There, Pike said, too loud. Now you're cool. You're welcome. Several soldiers had emerged from various buildings, drawn by the commotion, or maybe just bored. They formed a loose semicircle, watching, waiting. Elena didn't move. Water dripped. The sun blazed overhead. Jesus, Pike, someone muttered. That's messed up. But Pike was committed now, riding the bit. What? I was being nice. It's hot out. She needed to cool down. Besides, maybe now she'll... He didn't finish the sentence. Elena set down the radio component. Carefully, precisely, like she was following a technical manual. Then she moved. Adrian had seen hand-to-hand combat, watched training videos, been through CQB drills until muscle memory took over thinking. But he'd never seen someone move like that. No telegraph, no wind-up, just zero to impact in the space between heartbeats. 1 second, Pike was talking. The next, he was on his back in the dirt, staring at the sky, trying to remember how to breathe. Elena stood over him, not aggressive, not angry, just there, like she'd completed a task and was waiting for the next one. The silence was total. Pike coughed, tried to push himself up. What the fuck? Don't do that again, Elena said. Her voice was calm, conversational, the same tone she'd used to confirm a radio frequency. Then she picked up her radio component and walked away. Nobody stopped her. Nobody moved. Pike finally got to his feet, face red, eyes wide with something between shock and humiliation. Did everyone just see that? Yeah, Matthews said quietly. We saw. Adrian's mind was replaying it in slow motion, trying to parse the mechanics. She'd stepped inside his reach, used his size against him, redirected his weight. It was jujitsu or judo or something. Clean, controlled, no wasted energy. Professional. Pike brushed dust off his uniform, hands shaking slightly. I was just joking. It was just water. She can't... You dumped a bucket on her without asking, Adrian heard himself say. What'd you think was going to happen? Pike's eyes snapped to him. You're seriously taking her side? I'm not taking sides. I'm stating facts. Adrian kept his voice level. You got physical first. She responded. That's what happened. It was a joke. Didn't look like she was laughing. The crowd was dispersing now, people drifting back to their duties but buzzing with energy. This would spread through the base in minutes. Pike getting dropped by the new girl. Pike getting embarrassed. Pike learning what happens when you push the quiet one. Pike jabbed a finger toward where Elena had disappeared. This isn't over. Yes, it is, Adrian said, firm, final. It's over. Let it go. Fuck you, Cole. You're not my CO. No. But I can get Lieutenant Kessler involved. You want that? Pike's jaw worked. His fists clenched. But after a long moment, he turned and stalked toward the barracks, radiating wounded pride. Matthews appeared at Adrian's elbow. Well, that happened. Yeah. Think Pike's gonna let it go? Adrian watched the door slam behind Pike. No, probably not. Think we should tell Kessler? That was the question, wasn't it? Report it up the chain, make it official, turn a 10-second altercation into paperwork and statements and formal reprimands. Or let it fade into the background noise of base life. Just another story to tell over MREs. I'll talk to her, Adrian said. Unofficial. See where her head's at. Vargas? Yeah. Matthews glanced toward the communications tent. Good luck with that. Pretty sure talking to her is like talking to a wall. A wall that knows 17 ways to put you on your ass. Adrian started walking. That's what I'm counting on. Hoot. He found Elena in the comm tent, working on the radio she'd been carrying. Her uniform was still damp, but drying fast in the heat. She'd changed her shirt. The wet one hung on a line outside, already stiff with evaporating sweat and hard water. Vargas. She looked up. Sergeant Cole. You got a minute? I have several minutes. Do you need a specific number? Adrian blinked. Was that humor? Impossible to tell from her expression. Just one or two, he said, stepping into the tent. It was marginally cooler inside, shade if nothing else. Wanted to check in, see how you're doing. I'm functional. That's not what I asked. Elena set down a screwdriver, gave him her full attention. Her eyes were dark brown, almost black, and completely unreadable. Then clarify your question. Are you okay? After what happened outside? Why wouldn't I be? Pike dumped water on you, in front of people. That's... Adrian searched for the right word. Inappropriate. It was assault, technically, Elena said. Matter of fact. Unwanted physical contact. I responded with proportional force to ensure it wouldn't happen again. That's one way to put it. It's the accurate way. Adrian pulled up a folding chair, sat down across from her workbench. You know this is going to spread, right? Everyone's going to be talking about it. People talk regardless of what I do. She picked up the screwdriver again. Their conversation topics don't affect my job performance. Maybe not. But Pike's got friends. This might not be over. Then I'll handle it when it continues. Just like that. Just like that. Elena aligned a circuit board, made a micro adjustment. Is there something else, Sergeant? He should leave. Should let it drop. But something made him stay. Maybe the way she'd moved, that absolute certainty of action. Maybe the fact that she'd been on base almost a week, and this was the first real conversation they'd had. Where'd you learn to do that? Adrian asked. The takedown. Training. Army training doesn't usually... Before the Army. She didn't look up from her work. My father taught me. Your father? Correct. Adrian waited, but she didn't elaborate, just kept working, hand steady, focus absolute. Was he military? Adrian tried. Yes. What branch? Marine Corps. Force Recon. That explains some things. Force Recon didn't mess around. Elite reconnaissance, direct action. The guys who went places before anyone knew there was a place to go. Is he still active? Adrian asked. Elena's hands paused. Just for a second. No. The word carried weight. Not grief exactly, but something adjacent. Something that didn't invite follow-up questions. Adrian shifted gears. How's the equipment holding up? The comm system? Better than expected. Whoever maintained it before knew what they were doing. She glanced at him. Was it you? Me? No, I barely know which end of a radio to talk into. The end with the microphone. Adrian laughed before he could stop himself. Right, obviously. That was humor, Elena said. In case it wasn't clear. I got it. Good. People don't always. They fell into silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Elena worked. Adrian watched. Outside, the base hummed with its usual rhythm. Generators running, vehicles rumbling, distant voices calling coordinates and confirmations. You should report it, Elena said suddenly. Report what? The incident. Pike. All of it. She set down her screwdriver, met his eyes. If you don't and something happens later, it looks like you were negligent. Cover your ass, Sergeant. I'm more worried about covering yours. I don't need coverage. I need people to follow protocol. She picked up a different tool. But I appreciate the concern. It's noted. Dismissed. Politely, but firmly. Adrian stood. All right. I'll file a report. Keep it simple. Make sure you include that Corporal Pike initiated physical contact without consent. Everything else was defensive response. You sound like you've done this before. I've read the regulations. They're very clear. Of course she had. Adrian headed for the tent flap, then paused. Vargas? Yes? If Pike, or anyone else, gives you trouble again, you come find me. Understood? Elena looked at him for a long moment. Something shifted in her expression. Not a smile, but maybe the ghost of one. Understood, Sergeant. He left her to her work. But the report went up the chain that evening. Adrian kept it factual. Pike dumped water on Vargas without her consent. Vargas responded with non-lethal force. No injuries beyond Pike's bruised ego. Situation resolved. He expected Lieutenant Kessler to call him in. Expected questions, maybe an investigation. Instead, nothing happened. The report disappeared into the administrative void, and nobody mentioned it again. Which meant somebody higher up had made a decision. Let it die. Maybe they'd reviewed Pike's record. 6 years in, 3 Article 15S for minor infractions, a reputation for pushing boundaries. Maybe they'd looked at Elena's file and seen something that made them decide not to poke that particular bear. Or maybe they just didn't care. Red Basin wasn't a high-profile posting. It was a listening post, a relay station, a place to rotate soldiers through so they could check the combat zone box without actually seeing combat. Nothing important happened here. Until it did. 3 days passed. The story of Pike getting dropped became base legend, embellished with each retelling until some versions had Elena flipping him over her shoulder. Others had her using some kind of secret pressure point technique. The truth was simpler, but people preferred the legend. Pike avoided Elena. Elena avoided everyone. Life returned to its normal pattern of heat and boredom and waiting. Adrian found himself paying attention to her in ways he hadn't before. Not romantic, nothing like that. Just observant. He noticed she ate alone, always at the same table in the far corner of the mess hall. He He noticed she ran at, 500 every morning, 5 miles in full gear, never missing a day. He noticed she was the first one to volunteer for shit details, equipment maintenance, inventory checks, anything involving work instead of people. And he noticed she was good, really good. The comm systems ran smoother, response times improved, radio chatter got clearer. She made the base better just by being competent, and she did it without needing anyone to notice or care. On the 4th day, Adrian was doing maintenance on the Humvees when he heard Matthew's voice, tight with stress. "Sarge, you need to see this." Adrian dropped his wrench, jogged over. Matthews was standing by the motor pool office, holding a tablet. His face had gone pale under his tan. "What's wrong?" Matthews handed him the tablet. "Mission brief just came through. We're rolling out tomorrow." Adrian scanned the document. Reconnaissance patrol into the mountain range 20 clicks northeast. Suspected insurgent activity, possible weapons cache, orders to observe and report. Standard stuff. They'd done a dozen patrols like this. Then he got to the personnel roster. His team, Cole, Matthews, Rodriguez, Chen, plus 1 specialist for communication support, Vargas. "Shit," Adrian said quietly. "Yeah." Matthews rubbed his face. "Hostile territory, unknown threats, and we're bringing the girl who just got here and doesn't talk to anyone. She's qualified. I know she's qualified. That's not what worries me." "Then what does?" Matthews looked at him. "Out there, we need to trust each other, work together, communication, coordination, all that matters. And Vargas? She's a ghost, man. How do we trust someone we don't even know?" Adrian didn't have an answer, but he had a feeling they were about to find out. That night, he couldn't sleep. The barracks were stifling even with the fans running. Somewhere, someone was snoring loud enough to rattle metal. The air tasted like dust and diesel. Adrian lay on his bunk, staring at the ceiling, thinking about tomorrow. Thinking about mountains and heat and the kind of silence that meant danger instead of peace. Thinking about Elena Vargas, who moved like water and talked like stone and gave away exactly nothing. Who was she really? What was she running from or toward? And when things went bad tomorrow, because they always went bad eventually, would she be solid or would she crack? He wouldn't sleep tonight. He knew that now. So he got up, pulled on his boots, and walked outside. The desert night was cold, 70 degrees colder than the day, enough to make your skin prickle. Stars carpeted the sky in impossible numbers, so bright they cast shadows. And sitting on the hood of a Humvee, staring up at that vast darkness, was Elena. She didn't look over when he approached, just kept watching the stars. "Can't sleep either?" Adrian asked. Sleep is a biological necessity. Difficulty achieving it suggests stress or insufficient fatigue. She finally glanced at him. "Which one are you experiencing?" "Little of both, maybe." "Tomorrow's patrol." "Yeah. Are you concerned about my performance?" Adrian climbed up onto the hood beside her, not too close, leaving space. "Should I be?" "No. Simple. Certain. I know my job." "That's not what Matthews is worried about." "Matthews is worried I won't integrate with the team, that I'll be a liability because I don't socialize." Elena looked back at the stars. "He's wrong." "How do you know?" "Because when it matters, when the situation is critical, I don't need to like you or understand you or be your friend. I just need to do my job correctly." She paused. "That's all anyone needs." Adrian considered that. "Most people don't think like that." "I'm not most people." "I'm getting that impression." They sat in silence. A generator hummed somewhere. The wind carried the smell of creosote and sand. "Your father," Adrian said carefully. "Force recon. Did he teach you that? The way you think?" "He taught me to see clearly, to assess without emotion, to act without hesitation." Elena's voice was steady, but something underneath it felt heavy. "He said most people lose because they get distracted by what they want things to be, instead of seeing what they are." Sounds like a hard way to live. It's an effective way to survive. Another silence, longer this time. "He's dead, isn't he?" Adrian asked quietly. "Your father." Elena didn't answer for a long time. When she did, her voice was quieter than he'd ever heard it. "Kandahar, 2019 IED. I'm sorry." Everyone is. She said it without bitterness, just fact. But sorry doesn't change anything. He's gone. I'm here. And tomorrow we have a mission. She slid off the hood, boots crunching on gravel. Get some sleep, Sergeant. You'll need it. Then she walked away, disappearing into the shadows between buildings. Adrian stayed on the hood, staring at the stars, thinking about fathers and daughters and the weight people carried in silence. Thinking about tomorrow. And somewhere in the distance, so faint he almost missed it, a coyote howled. The sound carried across the empty desert, lonely and sharp, a warning or a promise. Adrian closed his eyes and tried not to hear it as an omen. The convoy rolled out at 0600, 3 Humvees cutting through the pre-dawn darkness like beetles crawling across a dirty windshield. Adrian sat in the lead vehicle, rifle between his knees, watching the desert scroll past in shades of gray and shadow. Elena was in the second Humvee with Matthews and Chen, surrounded by comm equipment that looked like it weighed more than she did. Adrian had watched her load it, case after case of radio gear, encryption modules, satellite uplinks, without asking for help, without slowing down. Rodriguez drove, hands loose on the wheel, eyes scanning the terrain. He'd done this run before. They all had. 14 miles of hard-packed desert road, then 6 miles of goat path that turned into boulder-strewn nightmare, then the mountain. "How you feeling, Sarge?" Rodriguez asked. "Like I drank sand." That's the spirit. The sun was climbing now, turning the sky from black to purple to that particular shade of orange that meant the heat was coming. Adrian's watch read 78 degrees. Give it 2 hours, it'd be 105. By afternoon, 115 easy. His radio crackled. Matthew's voice, distorted by static. "Lead vehicle, this is 2. Comms check." Adrian keyed his mic. 2, this is lead. Read you 5x5. Copy. Vargas has the long range up and running. We've got satellite link and encrypted channel to base. Golden. Roger. They drove in silence after that. The desert opened up around them, endless nothing in every direction, broken only by scrub brush and the occasional rock formation that looked like something melted and left to harden in weird shapes. Adrian's knee was bothering him. Old injury from a training accident 2 years back. Torn meniscus, supposed to get surgery but kept putting it off because surgery meant stateside, meant medical discharge, meant admitting something was wrong. So he'd learned to live with it. Popped ibuprofen like candy, wore a brace under his fatigues, pretended the pain was normal. He shifted his weight, felt the joint grind. Rodriguez noticed. "Knee again?" "It's fine." "Uh-huh." Rodriguez glanced over. "You know, eventually you're going to have to—" "It's fine," Adrian repeated. Harder this time. Rodriguez shut up. The road got worse as they climbed into the foothills. Ruts and washouts forced them to slow to a crawl, the Humvees rocking side to side like boats in heavy seas. Twice they had to stop completely while Rodriguez and Chen got out to clear debris. Fallen rocks, dead vegetation, one time what looked like an entire thorn bush. By the time they reached the mountain base, Adrian's knee was screaming and the sun was a white hammer overhead. "Dismount," he ordered into the radio. "Form up. Weapons check." The team assembled in the shadow of a cliff face. 6 soldiers, gear rattling, sweat already soaking through their uniforms. Elena stood slightly apart, checking her equipment with that same mechanical precision. She'd carried the heaviest compact herself, 60 pounds minimum, and wasn't even breathing hard. Matthews was breathing hard. So was Chen. Rodriguez looked like he'd been dunked in a swimming pool. "All right," Adrian said, pulling out a map. "We're here. Target area is 2 clicks northeast. Elevation gain about 800 meters. Terrain is going to be trash. Loose rock, blind corners, potential ambush points every 50 feet. Comforting," Matthews muttered. "Chen, you're on point. Rodriguez, rear security. Matthews, you're with me in the middle. Vargas..." He looked at Elena. "You good with the center position? Need to keep those radios protected." "Affirmative," she said. "I'll maintain comm link to base every 15 minutes. If we lose signal, I'll notify immediately." "Works for me." Adrian folded the map. "Rules of engagement. We are reconnaissance only. We observe, we report. We do not engage unless fired upon. This is not a combat patrol. We're ghosts. Understood?" A chorus of affirmatives. "Good. Let's move." The climb was brutal from the start. The mountain didn't mess around. It went straight up. No gentle slopes, no switchbacks. Just rocks and more rocks, each one trying to turn your ankle or shred your hands. Adrian's knee protested with every step. He compensated by favoring his left leg, which threw off his balance, which made everything harder. Sweat poured down his face. His rifle felt like it weighed 100 pounds. Behind him, Elena moved like the terrain didn't exist. She found footholds Adrian couldn't see, navigated obstacles without slowing down, kept pace with the team despite carrying twice the weight. It was unsettling. An hour in, they stopped for a water break. Everyone was sucking wind except Elena, who wasn't even flushed. "Jesus Christ," Matthews gasped, gulping from his canteen. "How are you not dying right now?" Elena checked her watch. Elevated heart rate is expected during aerobic exertion at altitude and within normal parameters. "That's not what I—" "Never mind." Chen laughed, which turned into a cough. "She's like the Terminator. I'm telling you." "The Terminator talked more," Rodriguez pointed out. "Fair." Adrian studied the ridge above them. Still at least a click to go, and the sun was getting worse. Heat rippled off the rocks in visible waves. The air tasted like copper and dust. His radio crackled. Elena's voice, clear and steady. "Base, this is Recon 1. Comm check. How copy?" A burst of static, then, "Recon 1 base, read you Lima Charlie. Status? On schedule, no contact. We'll update at next waypoint." "Copy. Base out." Elena lowered the radio, made a note on a small waterproof pad. Everything documented, everything precise. "All right," Adrian said, capping his canteen. 5 more minutes, then we push to the ridge. Stay sharp." They moved out again. The mountain got steeper. Adrian's knee got worse. He was popping ibuprofen dry now, swallowing pills without water because stopping to drink meant admitting weakness. Halfway up the next section, his boot slipped. Not badly, just a few inches. But his knee buckled and pain shot up his leg like electricity. He caught himself on a boulder, jaw clenched, vision swimming. "Sarge?" Rodriguez from behind. "You good?" "Fine." The word came out strangled. "Keep moving." But Elena had stopped. She was looking at him with those unreadable eyes, and for the first time Adrian saw something in them that wasn't neutral assessment. Concern? Maybe. Or calculation. "Your knee," she said. Not a question. "It's fine." It's not." She moved closer, ignoring the rest of the team. "You're compensating, favoring the left leg. You've been doing it since we started climbing." "Vargas? When did you injure it?" Adrian's jaw tightened. 2 years ago. Training accident. It's managed." "Managed how? Surgery? Physical therapy? Exercises?" "It's fine." "You're lying." She said it without accusation, just fact. "If it was fine, you wouldn't be eating ibuprofen like they're vitamins." Matthews had circled back now, concern written across his face. "Sarge, if your knee is messed up, we need to know. This terrain, one wrong step and you're rolling down the mountain." "I said it's fine." "And I said you're lying," Elena repeated. She pulled off her pack, 60 pounds dropped like it was nothing, and dug through a side pocket, came out with an elastic compression sleeve. "Put this on." "I don't need—" "Put it on, or I'm radioing base that we have a compromised team member and should abort." Her voice was flat. Final. "Your choice." Adrian stared at her. The team was watching now, everyone frozen in place, waiting to see how this played out. He could pull rank, order her to stand down, make it about authority instead of reality. Or he could admit she was right. He took the compression sleeve. "Turn around," he told the team. They did, giving him privacy to roll up his pant leg and fit the sleeve over his knee. It was tight, supportive, immediately took some of the pressure off. He'd never admit it out loud, but it helped. A lot. When he stood, Elena was watching him with that neutral expression. "Better?" "Yeah." "Good." She shouldered her pack again. "Don't lie to me about injuries. I can't help if I don't know what's broken." Then she moved past him, continuing up the trail like nothing had happened. Matthews gave Adrian a look. "She's kind of intense, huh?" "Yeah." "But like, intense in a weirdly competent way." Adrian started climbing again, testing his knee. The sleeve made a difference. Significant difference. Yeah. They reached the ridge 40 minutes later, a rocky outcrop that gave them a clear view of the valley below. Adrian pulled out binoculars, scanned the terrain. There, Chen said, pointing. 3 o'clock. You see that? Adrian adjusted focus. A cluster of buildings, maybe half a click away. Low structures, flat roofs designed to blend into the landscape. Vehicles parked outside. Movement. That's not on any map, Rodriguez said quietly. No, Adrian agreed. It's not. Elena was already setting up the long-range radio, working with smooth efficiency. She assembled the antenna, aligned it for optimal signal, had the system operational in under 3 minutes. Base, this is Recon 1. We have visual on unidentified structures at grid reference. She read off coordinates from her GPS. Requesting guidance. How copy? Static. Then, Recon 1, hold position. Stand by for analysis. They waited. The sun beat down. Sweat dried and crusted on skin. Adrian kept watching the buildings through his binoculars, counting vehicles, estimating personnel. Too many vehicles, too much organization. This wasn't a random camp. His radio crackled. Recon 1 base, confirmed hostile activity in your area. Do not approach. Observe and document. Prepare to withdraw on my mark. Copy, Elena said. We'll maintain position and... She stopped mid-sentence. Adrian lowered his binoculars. What? Elena was staring at the radio's frequency display. We have interference. Someone's jamming the encrypted channel. Can you compensate? Working on it. Her hands moved across the equipment, making adjustments. Switching to backup frequency. No good. They're sweeping the spectrum. This is deliberate. Matthew swore under his breath. They know we're here. Maybe, Adrian said. Or they're just running security protocols. Either way, we need to... Movement in the valley, more vehicles arriving, personnel deploying, and then weapons, heavy weapons. A technical with a mounted machine gun, another with what looked like a recoilless rifle. Oh shit, Chen whispered. Adrian's mind raced. They were compromised, maybe not pinpointed, but definitely on someone's radar. The comm link was down. They had no backup, no support, and the enemy had superior numbers and firepower. We need to move, he said. Now, pack it up. Elena was already breaking down the antenna. Radio is fried. Jamming burned out the encryption module. We're dark. Can you fix it? Not here. Need tools, replacement parts. She stuffed equipment into her pack. We're running silent until we reach the vehicles. Then we run silent. Adrian turned to the team. Combat intervals, no talking, hand signals only. We move fast but quiet. If contact is made, we're outgunned, Rodriguez interrupted. If contact is made, we're dead. Then don't make contact. Adrian checked his rifle. Chen, point. Rodriguez, rear. Everyone else, tight formation. Move. They descended fast, too fast for safety, but not fast enough for Adrian's racing heart. His knees screamed with every jarring step, compression sleeve or not. The rocks were looser going down, treacherous, each footfall a gamble. Behind him, Elena moved without sound. No rattling gear, no heavy breathing, just controlled descent like she'd done this 1,000 times. Maybe she had. They were halfway down when Chen held up a fist. Everyone froze. Voices. Below them, around a blind corner. Speaking Arabic. Adrian's Arabic was terrible, but he caught enough. Patrol, sweep, search pattern. They had been spotted, or tracked, or predicted. Didn't matter which, the result was the same. He made hand signals. Fall back. Find cover. The team melted into the rocks, finding crevices and overhangs. Adrian wedged himself behind a boulder, rifle ready, breathing controlled. His knee throbbed in time with his pulse. Elena was beside him, pressed into a gap between rocks that shouldn't have fit her and all her gear. But she'd made it work somehow, contorting herself into the space like water finding a crack. The voices got closer. Boots on stone. Radio chatter. Adrian met Elena's eyes. She was calm, unnaturally calm, like this was just another day at work. She pointed to her watch, then held up 5 fingers. 5 minutes until they passed. He nodded. They waited. The sun blazed overhead. Sweat stung Adrian's eyes. His finger rested on the trigger guard, not the trigger, Muscle memory from 1,000 drills. Don't fire unless fired upon. Don't engage unless necessary. Stay quiet. Stay hidden. Stay alive. The patrol appeared below them. 4 men, armed with AK-47s, moving with the casual confidence of people on their own territory. They weren't searching carefully, just going through the motions. Good. That was good. One of them stopped, said something Adrian couldn't hear. The others laughed. Then they kept moving, disappearing around another bend. Adrian counted to 60, then 60 again. Then gave the signal. Move. They extracted from their hiding spots and continued descending, faster now, urgency overriding caution. The mountain seemed endless. Every time Adrian thought they were close to the bottom, another stretch of rocks appeared. Another obstacle. His knee was on fire. The compression sleeve helped, but there were limits to what fabric and pressure could do. He was compensating again, throwing his weight wrong, and he knew it was only a matter of time before his boot caught a loose rock. His knee buckled. He went down hard, sliding 3 feet before catching himself on an outcrop. Pain exploded up his leg, white hot, nauseating. "Sarge!" Matthews rushed back. "I'm fine." Adrian forced himself upright. His knee felt wrong. Not just pain, but instability, like something had shifted inside that wasn't supposed to move. Elena was there before he could wave her off. "Can you walk?" "I can." He tried putting weight on it, nearly fell again. "Shit!" "Rodriguez," Elena said, voice sharp. "Get his other side. We're carrying him." "I don't need You can't walk. We can't leave you, so we carry." She ducked under his right arm, Rodriguez under his left. "Matthews, take point. Chen, rear security. Move." They moved. Adrian tried to help, tried to hop on his good leg, but every jarring step sent fresh agony through his knee. He felt like dead weight, a liability. Everything he'd promised himself he wouldn't be. "I'm sorry," he gasped. "I should have." "Save it," Elena said. No sympathy, no coddling, just facts. "Focus on not passing out. We need you conscious." The descent became a blur of pain and movement. Adrian lost track of time. Could have been 20 minutes, could have been 2 hours. The world reduced to the next step, the next breath, the next wave of pain. And through it all, Elena never faltered. 60 pounds of gear on her back, half of Adrian's weight under her shoulder, navigating treacherous terrain, and she kept pace like it was nothing. "Almost there," Rodriguez panted. "I can see the vehicles." "Contact!" Chen's voice sharp with adrenaline. Adrian's head snapped up. Below them, at the base of the mountain, armed men were surrounding their Humvees. 6, maybe 8. They'd found the vehicles, set up an ambush. "We're trapped," Matthews said. Adrian's mind raced through options. They couldn't fight. Outgunned, outpositioned, compromised. They couldn't hide. Nowhere to go, and his injury meant slow movement. They couldn't call for help. Radios were fried. They were out of options. "There," Elena said suddenly. She pointed to a narrow ravine off to their left. "Natural drainage channel. Follows the terrain down, comes out half a click south of the vehicles." "How do you know that?" Rodriguez asked. "Topography. Water erosion patterns. Basic geology." She was already moving, dragging Adrian with her. "Come on!" They had no choice but to follow. The ravine was tight, barely wide enough for one person, let alone someone carrying gear. They had to move single file, weapons held high, packs scraping against rock walls. Adrian gritted his teeth, trying not to scream as Elena and Rodriguez navigated him through the narrow space. His knee was a ball of white fire, bone grinding on bone, ligaments that felt like they were tearing. "Talk to me, Sarge," Elena said quietly. "Stay conscious." "I'm here." "Tell me something, anything. Keep your mind active." "Like what?" "Why'd you join?" Her voice was steady, controlled. "The Army. What made you sign up?" Adrian's vision was swimming. "Didn't know what else to do. Parents wanted me to go to college. Couldn't afford it. Recruiter showed up at my high school. Made it sound simple. Was it?" "No." He laughed, which hurt. "Nothing's ever simple." "True." They emerged from the ravine into a wider gully. Chen scanned both directions, gave the all-clear signal. Vehicles are that way, Elena said, pointing south. Maybe 10 minutes if we move fast. Define fast, Adrian managed. Faster than you want to go. She adjusted her grip on his shoulder. Can you run? Can I run? My knee is... Can. You. Run. Each word precise. Sharp. Adrian looked at her, those dark eyes, completely serious, completely focused. Yeah, he lied. I can run. Good. She glanced at the team. On my mark, we sprint for the vehicles. No stopping, no looking back. If you fall, you get up. If you can't get up, you call out and we drag you. Clear? Nods all around. 3, 2, 1, mark. They ran. Adrian's knee buckled on the third step. He caught himself, kept moving. Pain shot through him like lightning. His vision tunneled. He tasted copper, but he ran. Elena and Rodriguez half carried, half dragged him. Matthews and Chen covered their flanks. They crashed through brush, vaulted over rocks, moved with desperate speed. The Humvees appeared. Empty now. The ambush team had moved, probably searching the mountain. Keys, Rodriguez shouted. Chen's got them, Matthews yelled back. They reached the vehicles. Chen fumbled with the keys, hands shaking. The first Humvee's engine roared to life. Then the second. Load up, Adrian gasped. Go, go, go! They piled in. Elena practically threw Adrian into the back seat, climbed in after him. Rodriguez hit the gas before the doors were fully closed. The Humvees tore across the desert, kicking up dust, engines screaming. Behind them, Adrian heard shouting, then gunfire. Rounds pinged off the armor. Someone was yelling. The vehicle swerved. Elena was on the radio, the short-range one, still functional. Base, this is Recon 1. We are under fire. Repeat, under fire. Coordinates. More gunfire. Closer now. They're pursuing, Chen shouted from the lead vehicle. Adrian twisted to look out the back window. 2 technicals, mounted guns, closing fast. Faster, Matthews yelled at Rodriguez. I'm already at maximum. The machine gun opened up. Rounds tore through the desert around them. One hit the rear door, punched through the thin armor, exited the roof. Too close. Way too close. Elena was still on the radio, still calling for support, voice never wavering. Then, thunder overhead, the deep roar of jet engines. Adrian looked up through the window, 2 shapes cutting across the sky. F-16S. Air support indemnity inbound, Elena announced. 30 seconds. The pursuing vehicles must have seen them too. They broke off, turned hard, disappeared behind a ridge. The jets screamed past, low enough to rattle teeth, then banked away. The threat was gone. For now. They didn't stop driving until Red Basin appeared on the horizon, shimmering in the heat like a mirage. Adrian's knee was swollen to twice its normal size. He couldn't put weight on it anymore. Couldn't even straighten the leg. Elena sat beside him, gear stowed, radio silent. Her uniform was torn. Dust covered her face, but her eyes were still steady, still focused. You lied, she said quietly. About what? About being able to run. Adrian closed his eyes. Yeah, I did. Don't do it again. Why? You would have left me? No. She paused. But I would have planned differently. Lying about your capabilities gets people killed. He knew she was right, hated that she was right. Thank you, he said, for getting us out. I did my job. You did more than that. Elena looked at him then, really looked, like she was assessing something she hadn't considered before. So did you. You kept moving even when you couldn't. That takes something. Stupidity? Discipline. She turned away. Same thing your father taught me. See what is. Act anyway. Before Adrian could respond, the Humvees pulled into Red Basin. Medical was waiting. So was Lieutenant Kessler, face grim. They'd survived. But as they unloaded and Adrian was helped to the medical tent, he couldn't shake the feeling that they'd dodged something bigger than a simple patrol. Something that was still out there, still watching, still waiting. The medical tent smelled like antiseptic and disappointment. Adrian sat on an exam table while Doc Harrison, a Navy corpsman who'd seen too much and cared too little, poked at his knee with clinical detachment. It's bad, Harrison said, not looking up. I know it's bad. No, I mean it's really bad. You've got a torn meniscus, possible ACL damage, and what feels like bone fragments floating around in there. Harrison pressed on the swelling. Adrian hissed through his teeth. How long have you been walking on this? 2 years, give or take. Two. Harrison stopped, stared at him. You're an idiot. So I've heard. I'm serious, Cole. You need surgery, real surgery, stateside, with an actual orthopedic surgeon, not me trying to patch you up with field equipment and prayers. Adrian's jaw tightened. Can you stabilize it? Can I? Sure, should I? No. You need to be medevaced out of here, tonight. That's not happening. Says, Sergeant, we just lost comms in hostile territory. Got ambushed. Something's happening out there. And you want me to abandon my team? Adrian shook his head. Not a chance. Harrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed, pulled out a brace that looked like medieval torture equipment. You're going to lose that leg eventually. You know that, right? Probably. And you're okay with that? Adrian thought about the ravine, about Elena and Rodriguez dragging him through hell, about the moment his knee gave out and he thought they were all going to die because of him. No, he admitted. But I don't have a choice right now. Harrison fitted the brace, rigid metal supports, Velcro straps that cut into flesh. It hurt worse than the injury. This will keep it from moving, won't fix anything, but it'll prevent it from getting catastrophically worse. Maybe. Good enough. It's not good enough. It's barely adequate. Harrison handed him a bottle of prescription painkillers. Take these sparingly. They'll mess with your head, and out here, you need your head. Adrian pocketed the bottle. Anything else? Yeah, you're grounded. No patrols, no missions, desk duty until that knee heals or falls off, whichever comes first. You can't. I can and I am. Doctor's orders. You want to argue, take it up with Lieutenant Kessler. Harrison started cleaning up. Now get out of my tent. I've got actual patients to deal with. Adrian limped out into the afternoon heat. His knee was locked in the brace, immobile, throbbing with every heartbeat. The painkillers were already starting to work, dulling the edges, making everything feel distant and slightly unreal. Kessler was waiting outside, arms crossed, face like granite. Walk with me, she said. Not a request. They walked, slowly. Adrian's new gait was stiff, mechanical, the brace forcing his legs straight. Kessler matched his pace without commenting on it. Harrison says you need surgery, she said. Harrison worries too much. Harrison is a professional. You're being stubborn. Yes, ma'am. They reached the operations tent. Inside was cooler, darker, filled with the hum of computers and radio equipment. Kessler pulled up a chair, gestured for Adrian to sit. He did, gratefully. Tell me what happened out there, Kessler said. Adrian walked her through it. The climb, the observation point, the jamming, the ambush, the escape. Kessler listened without interrupting, her expression giving nothing away. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. The comm jamming, she finally said. That's sophisticated equipment, not something random insurgents carry around. No, ma'am. And the ambush. They knew exactly where your vehicles were, either got lucky or had eyes on you the whole time. Yes, ma'am. Which means either they have better intelligence than we thought, Kessler paused, or we have a bigger problem than a few scattered hostile elements. Adrian felt cold despite the heat. You think it's organized? I think we're supposed to be a low-priority outpost in the middle of nowhere, and somehow we just got targeted by people with military-grade jamming equipment and coordinated tactics. Kessler pulled up a file on her laptop. I ran your radio logs. The jamming signature matches patterns we've seen before. Syria, Yemen, places where state actors operate. State actors. Adrian's mouth was dry. You're saying a government? I'm saying someone with training and resources. Could be state-sponsored. Could be well-funded extremists. Either way, we're not equipped for this. She closed the laptop. I've requested additional support. Drones, signals intelligence, maybe a quick reaction force if we're lucky. When will they arrive? Unknown. We're low priority, remember? Kessler's smile was bitter. Could be days, could be weeks, could be never. So what do? We stay alert. We fortify. We don't send any more patrols into that sector. She looked at him. And you stay off that knee. I need you functional, not crippled. Adrian nodded. What about Vargas? What about her? Her radio work, the way she handled the situation. She kept us connected until the jamming hit, got us out when everything went to hell. He paused. She's good, ma'am. Really good. Kessler's expression shifted, something calculating. I noticed. Her file is interesting. How so? Communications school, top of her class, speaks 4 languages. Psychological eval notes, exceptional stress tolerance and tactical adaptability. Previous posting was Fort Meade. Fort Meade, NSA headquarters, signals intelligence, cryptography. She's a spook, Adrian said quietly. She's a specialist assigned to communications support. What she was before is above my clearance level. Kessler stood. But yes, I'd bet money she's more than she appears. Adrian thought about Elena's calm under fire. Her instant analysis of terrain, the way she moved like violence was just another skill, learned and practiced. Why send someone like that here, Toys? He asked. We're nobody. That's the question, isn't it? Kessler headed for the door. Get some rest, Cole, and stay off that knee. She left him alone in the operations tent, surrounded by humming equipment and unanswered questions. Adrian pulled out the pill bottle Harrison had given him, stared at it, put it away without taking any. He needed his head clear. Something was wrong, not just the ambush or the jamming or his ruined knee. Something bigger, something that made the hair on his neck stand up. Outside, the sun was beginning its descent, painting the desert in shades of orange and red, beautiful and terrible like everything out here. Adrian limped back to the barracks, each step a negotiation with pain. He found the team in the common area, Matthews, Rodriguez, Chen, all looking shell-shocked and exhausted. They'd been debriefed separately, processed, released. Sarge, Matthews said, standing, how's the knee? Functional. That's not what I asked. It's what I'm telling you. Adrian lowered himself onto a bench. Everyone okay? Nods all around. Chen had a bandage on his arm, shrapnel from a ricochet. Rodriguez's hands were torn up from the climb. Matthews looked like he'd aged 5 years. That was too close, Rodriguez said quietly. If Vargas hadn't found that ravine, we'd be dead, Chen finished. Or captured, which is worse. Where is she? Adrian asked. Still in debriefing. Kessler wanted extra time with her. Matthews cracked his knuckles. Makes sense. She saved our asses. They sat in silence. Outside, the base moved through its evening routine. Shift changes, meal service, the endless maintenance that kept things running. I misjudged her, Matthews said suddenly. Vargas, I thought she was cold, disconnected. But out there? He trailed off. She was something else, Rodriguez agreed. Calm when I was losing my shit. Focused when everything was falling apart. It was like she'd done it before. Maybe she has, Adrian said. They looked at him. Fort Meade, he explained. That's where she was posted before here. NSA territory. Signals intelligence. Chen whistled low. So she's actually a spy. She's a comms specialist with a specific skill set. What she did before is classified. But probably spy stuff. Probably, Adrian admitted. The door opened. Elena walked in, still in her dusty uniform, face unreadable. The conversation died instantly. She looked at each of them in turn, then focused on Adrian. Your knee. How bad? Manageable. That's not what I asked. It's what I'm telling you. He used her own words back at her, saw something flicker in her expression, almost a smile, but not quite. Fair. She grabbed a water bottle from the cooler, drained half of it. Lieutenant Kessler wants updated patrol schedules by tomorrow. No one goes beyond the perimeter without her explicit approval. We're locked down, Matthews said, temporarily, until intelligence gets a better picture of what's out there. And if they don't? Rodriguez asked. Elena's pause was barely perceptible. Then we adapt. She turned to leave. Vargas? Adrian called. She stopped. Thank you, for today, for all of it. She looked back at him. I did my job. You did more than that. No, I did exactly what I was trained to do. Her voice was flat, but her eyes held something complicated. The fact that it kept us alive is just math, variables, and outcomes. People aren't math. Everything's math if you look at it right. She paused at the door. Get that knee looked at properly, Cole. Ignoring problems doesn't make them disappear. Then she was gone. She's definitely a spy, Chen said. Shut up, Chen, Matthews and Rodriguez said in unison. Adrian smiled despite himself. Jets. The next day brought new intelligence. Drone footage, intercepted communications, satellite imagery. Kessler called a briefing at 0800. The operations tent was packed. Every NCO, every officer, everyone who needed to know. Adrian stood in the back, knee locked in the brace, weight on his good leg. Elena was across the room, standing alone like always. Their eyes met briefly. She nodded once. Kessler pulled up an image on the projector, aerial view of the valley they'd observed. The buildings were clearer now, more detail. This is what you saw yesterday, Kessler said. Analysis confirms it's a staging area. Weapons cache, vehicle depot, probably a command center, estimated 30 to 40 personnel, heavily armed, organized. She clicked to the next image. This is what's concerning. Traffic patterns show regular movement between this site and 3 others in the region. We're not looking at an isolated cell. This is networked, coordinated. Murmurs around the room. Someone swore quietly. Intel suggests they're planning something. We don't know what or when, but the activity level has spiked in the last 72 hours. Kessler's expression was grim. Which means we might be a target. We're just a relay station, someone objected. Why target us? Because we can call in air support. Because we have eyes on their operations. Because taking us out creates a blind spot. Kessler clicked to another slide. Point is, we're fortifying. Additional security protocols, rotating watch schedules, weapons ready at all times. What about offensive action? Pike's voice from the front row. We just gonna sit here and wait to get hit? Kessler's eyes went cold. We're going to follow orders, Corporal, which is to maintain defensive posture and gather intelligence. So yes, we're sitting here. That's enough. But Pike wasn't done. With all due respect, ma'am, sitting and waiting is how people die. We know where they are. We should hit them first. We don't have the personnel or equipment for an assault. This isn't a debate. Pike stood. Adrian saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw was clenched. Then what's the point of being here? We're supposed to just... Sit down, Corporal. Pike didn't sit. My point is, we have people who know that area now. Vargas and Cole's team. They've been there. They know the terrain. We could... I said sit down. For a long moment, Pike held Kessler's stare. Then he sat, radiating anger. Kessler continued the briefing, but Adrian barely heard it. He was watching Elena, who was watching Pike with an expression of cold calculation. After the meeting, people dispersed. Adrian caught up with Elena outside. Pike's going to be a problem, he said. Pike has always been a problem. This just gives him focus. You think he'll do something stupid? Elena looked at him. Define stupid. Going rogue, taking matters into his own hands. People like Pike don't think they're going rogue. They think they're being brave. She started walking toward the comm tent. But yes, he'll do something. Question is when. Adrian followed, knee protesting with each step. We should watch him. We should, but we won't have to for long. Why not? She stopped at the tent entrance. Because people like Pike don't wait. They act. Usually badly. She ducked inside. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. Adrian stood outside the tent, sun beating down, knee throbbing, mind racing. Elena was right. Pike was going to do something. The only question was whether they could stop him before people got killed. 2 days later, the answer came. Adrian was in the mess hall forcing down something that claimed to be meatloaf when Matthews rushed in. Sarge, we got a problem. Adrian set down his fork. What kind? Pike's missing. So are Johnson and Watts. Their gear's gone, and one of the Humvees is missing from the motor pool. Adrian's blood went cold. When? Sometime between midnight and 0400. Watch rotation change. Nobody saw them leave. Son of a bitch. Adrian stood, knee screaming. Alert Kessler, now! By the time he reached the operations tent, Kessler was already there with Elena, both staring at a map. They took the northern route. Elena said without preamble. Same path we used. They're heading for the observation point. Or the valley, Kessler said. They're going to hit that staging area. With 3 people? Adrian couldn't believe it. That's suicide. That's Pike. Kessler's hands were shaking, barely visible, but there. He thinks he's a hero, thinks he can solve this himself. Can we stop them? Adrian asked. Not in time. They've got a 4-hour head start, and we don't have anyone to spare for pursuit. Kessler looked at Elena. Can you raise them on radio? They're running silent. If they're smart, they're not smart, Adrian interrupted. They're angry and stupid and way out of their depth. Elena pulled up the comm panel. I can try, but if they've disabled their radios to avoid detection. She tried anyway, called every frequency. Got nothing but static. They're ghosts, she said finally. Kessler slammed her hand on the desk. God damn it. 3 soldiers about to start a firefight we can't support, can't control, can't even observe. If they get killed, when they get killed, Elena corrected quietly. The silence was heavy. Then Elena straightened. Unless what? Kessler asked. Unless we beat them there, intercept before they engage. With what team? Everyone's assigned to base security. Elena looked at Adrian. Cole's team. Same people who made it out last time. Cole can barely walk, Kessler objected. I can walk fine, Adrian lied. The brace made him stiff but mobile. And she's right. We know the terrain, we know the routes. We can move fast. Fast enough to beat a 4-hour head start? If we leave now. Elena was already moving, grabbing gear. Matthews, Rodriguez, Chen, they're all on light-duty rotation. We pull them, outfit fast, drive hard. Kessler's jaw worked. You're asking me to send an injured NCO and 4 soldiers into hostile territory to stop 3 idiots from committing suicide? Yes, ma'am, Elena said. And if you fail? If Pike engages before you arrive? Then we provide support, extract survivors, minimize casualties. That's not a plan. That's damage control. It's all we have. Kessler closed her eyes, opened them. Go, fast. And Cole, if that knee gives out, you pull back immediately. I'm not losing anyone else today. Yes, ma'am. They assembled in 8 minutes. Adrian, Elena, Matthews, Rodriguez, Chen, all the people who'd nearly died 3 days ago, about to do it again. This is insane, Matthews said, checking his rifle. Yep, Rodriguez agreed. But we're doing it anyway, Chen added. Yep, they all said together. 2 Humvees, full speed. The desert flew past in a blur of sand and heat. Adrian rode with Elena again, her hand steady on the radio, monitoring frequencies. His knee was already complaining, brace or not. He dry swallowed 2 painkillers and tried not to think about what they were driving into. How'd you know? He asked. Know what? That Pike would do this. Elena adjusted a dial. Because he's predictable. Ego plus opportunity equals action. It's math. People aren't math. We've had this conversation. She glanced at him. How's the knee? Don't ask questions you know the answer to. Fair? She went back to the radio. Then quieter. My father used to say the most dangerous person on a team isn't the one who's scared. It's the one who thinks they have nothing to prove. Pike has everything to prove. Exactly, which makes him lethal, just not in the way he thinks. They drove in silence after that. The mountain appeared on the horizon. Adrian's watch read 09:47. They'd made good time, maybe good enough. There, Rodriguez said, pointing. Tire tracks, fresh. Elena was out before the Humvee fully stopped, kneeling by the marks. 2 hours old, maybe 3. We're close. They followed the tracks up into the foothills. Adrian's knee screamed with every jolt and bump, but he gritted his teeth and stayed quiet. Then they heard it. Gunfire. Distant but unmistakable. The sharp crack of rifles, the deeper boom of something heavier. Contact, Chen said unnecessarily. Move, Adrian ordered. They abandoned the Humvees, moved on foot. The gunfire got louder, closer. Adrian heard shouting in Arabic, someone screaming in English. They crested a ridge and saw it. Pike and his team pinned down behind a cluster of rocks, surrounded by at least 15 hostiles, outgunned, outflanked, seconds from being overrun. One of Pike's men, Johnson, was on the ground, not moving. Watts was returning fire, but his movements were jerky, panicked. Pike was shouting something, but Adrian couldn't hear over the gunfire. "We need to," Matthews started. "Flank them," Elena finished. She pointed. Rodriguez Chen, circle left. Matthews, suppressing fire from here. "Cole and I'll provide support," Adrian said. "You flank right. Your knee is fine for lying prone and shooting." He was already moving into position. "Go." Elena hesitated, then nodded. "Don't die." "Back at you." She moved, fast, low, using terrain like she'd been born to it. Adrian found a position behind a boulder, set up his rifle. His knee was a ball of fire, but prone took the weight off. He could do this. "Matthews," he said into his radio. "On my mark, light them up. 3, 2, 1, mark." They opened fire. The effect was immediate. Hostile forces turned, confused, trying to locate the new threat. Return fire came their way, but they were positioned well. Then Elena appeared on the right flank, not firing, just there. And that's when Adrian saw what she really was. She moved through the hostile position like smoke. One man went down before he knew she was there. Another turned, raised his weapon. She'd already moved, already struck. Clinical, efficient, deadly. It wasn't fighting, it was elimination. Rodriguez and Chen hit from the left, weapons blazing. The hostiles were surrounded now, caught in crossfire, leadership dead or dying. They broke, ran, scattered into the rocks. In less than 2 minutes, it was over. Adrian pushed himself up, knee protesting violently. He limped down to where Pike was crouched, face pale, hands shaking. "What the hell were you thinking?" Adrian demanded. Pike looked up at him, blood on his face. Johnson's blood. You were just getting your team killed." Adrian's voice was cold. "Johnson's dead, Watts is hit, and you're damn lucky we showed up." "I thought you didn't think. That's the problem." Lena appeared, silent as always. She looked at Johnson's body, then at Pike. "Go back to base," she said. Her voice was flat, empty. "Take Watts. Report to Lieutenant Kessler. Tell her everything." "Who the hell are you?" Pike started. "I said go." Something in her tone made Pike flinch, made everyone flinch. He went. Matthews and Chen helped carry Johnson. Rodriguez supported Watts. They moved down the mountain in silence. Adrian and Elena stayed behind, securing the site, checking the bodies. "You've done this before," Adrian said. Not a question. Elena didn't look at him. "Yes." "Where?" "Places that don't exist, doing things I can't talk about." She finally met his eyes. "My father taught me to shoot. The military taught me to fight. But there are other schools, quieter ones." "How many times?" "Enough to know I don't want to count anymore." Adrian understood. Some things you didn't measure. Some things you just carried. They walked back down together. His knee barely held. Her silence spoke volumes. At the bottom, the Humvees waited. Pike and his survivors were already gone. "This changes things," Elena said. "How?" "Now they know we're active. Know we can hit them. They'll respond." She looked at the mountain. "It's going to get worse before it gets better." "Story of my life," Adrian said. They drove back to Red Basin as the sun set, painting the desert blood red. When they arrived, Kessler was waiting. So was a MP team. Pike was already in restraints, headed for court-martial. Johnson's body went to the morgue. The war had come to Red Basin, and nothing would ever be simple again. The debriefing lasted 4 hours. Adrian sat in a metal chair in the operations tent, knee throbbing despite the pills, while a colonel from Central Command appeared on the video link and asked the same questions in different orders, like he was trying to catch someone in a lie. "Walk me through the engagement again, Sergeant Cole." "We arrived at the ridgeline at approximately 10-15 hours. Why did you leave base without proper authorization?" "We had authorization from Lieutenant Kessler." "To pursue Corporal Pike?" "To prevent a tactical disaster." The colonel's face was stone. "A soldier is dead, Sergeant. I'd say the disaster already happened." Adrian's jaw tightened. Johnson died because Pike went rogue. We saved the other two. By engaging a superior hostile force with an undermanned unit. By doing what was necessary. The colonel leaned forward. Tell me about Specialist Vargas. The shift in topic was deliberate, calculated. Adrian felt his guard go up. What about her? Her actions during the engagement. The report says she eliminated multiple hostiles in close quarters combat. That's correct. How many? Adrian thought about what he'd seen through his rifle scope. Elena moving like liquid death, bodies dropping. I couldn't get an exact count. At least 5. Maybe more. And her methodology? Efficient. Elaborate. She knows what she's doing, sir. Moves like someone with extensive training. Advanced training. The colonel was quiet for a moment. Were you aware of Specialist Vargas's background before this incident? I knew she was posted at Fort Meade, that's it. Nothing else? Nothing else. The colonel's eyes narrowed. Sergeant, I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I need a direct answer. Do you believe Specialist Vargas is a security risk? Adrian didn't hesitate. No, sir. Even though you admit you don't know her full background? I know she saved my team, twice. That's enough. Is it? Yes, sir. The colonel studied him through the screen. You're protective of her. I'm stating facts. Facts colored by gratitude. Facts supported by results. Adrian leaned forward despite the pain in his knee. With respect, sir, whatever Vargas did before, whatever she is, she's the reason my team is alive. The reason Pike and Watts made it back. If you're looking for someone to blame, blame the corporal who ignored orders and got a soldier killed. The silence stretched. Then the colonel nodded. That will be all, Sergeant. Send in Specialist Vargas. Adrian stood, favoring his good leg. Sir. He limped out into the evening air. The sun was setting again. It was always setting out here, like the world was stuck on repeat. Elena was waiting on a bench outside the tent, perfectly still. Your turn, Adrian said. She stood without comment, walked past him into the tent. The door closed. Adrian wanted to wait, wanted to hear what happened. But Matthews appeared from the barracks, looking grim. How'd it go? Matthews asked. About as well as getting teeth pulled without anesthetic. That good, huh? Matthews fell into step beside him. Pike's being transferred out tomorrow. Court-martial pending. Watts is in medical, concussion, broken ribs, but he'll live. And Johnson? Transport's taking him home day after tomorrow. Matthews was quiet. His mom's a widow. Dad died when Johnson was 14. He was all she had left. Adrian closed his eyes. Fuck. Yeah. They walked without destination, just moving because standing still felt wrong. The base was quiet. Evening meal done. Work shifts changing. That liminal space between day and night where everything felt suspended. What do you think they're asking her? Matthews said. Everything. Think she'll tell them? Doubt it. Adrian thought about Elena's eyes, dark and unreadable, hiding depths he couldn't measure. She'll tell them what they need to know, nothing more. That's not how debriefings work. That's how she works. Matthews kicked at a rock. She scares me a little, in a good way, but still. Good scared? Like, you know how some people are dangerous because they're out of control? Pike's like that. Chaos waiting to explode. Matthews paused. Vargas is the opposite. She's dangerous because she's always in control, total control, like she's made of ice and math. Adrian thought about the mountain, about watching Elena move through armed men like they were stationary targets. No hesitation, no mercy, just execution. Not ice, he said. Ice cracks under pressure. She's something else. What? I don't know yet. Elena's debriefing lasted 6 hours. When she finally emerged, it was past midnight. Adrian was still awake, had tried sleeping, given up, ended up sitting outside the operations tent watching stars. She looked exactly the same as when she'd gone in. No visible stress, no exhaustion, just Elena. You waited, she said. Couldn't sleep. Your knee? Among other things. He gestured to the bench. Sit? She did. They sat in silence for a while, the desert night cold and clear around them. "How bad was it?" Adrian finally asked. "Define bad." "Did they threaten you? Accuse you of anything?" "They asked questions. I answered." Elena looked at the stars. "They wanted to know about my training, my previous assignments, why I was really here." "What did you tell them?" "The truth. Mostly." "Mostly?" "Some things are classified above their clearance level. I told them that too." Adrian almost smiled. "Bet they loved that." "They didn't." She pulled her knees up, wrapped her arms around them, made her look smaller, younger. "But there's nothing they can do about it. My orders came from very high up. They can question me all they want, but they can't actually touch me." "So you're untouchable?" "No one's untouchable, just insulated." She was quiet for a moment. "They asked about you." "Me?" "Whether you knew about my background, whether I'd compromised operational security by revealing classified information." "What'd you say?" "That you never asked questions you knew I couldn't answer. That you treated me like a soldier, not a puzzle to solve." She glanced at him. "Was I wrong?" "No." "Good." More silence. A generator hummed somewhere. Guards changed positions on the perimeter. Life continued. "Can I ask you something?" Adrian said. "You can ask. I might not answer." "Fair." He chose his words carefully. "What you did on that mountain, the way you moved, fought, eliminated targets, that's not standard army training." "No, it's not." "So where did you learn it?" Elena was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was softer than he'd ever heard it. "After my father died, I was angry, directionless. The military helped, but not enough. I wanted to do more, be more. So I volunteered for programs most people don't know exist." "What kind of programs?" "The kind that teach you how to operate in places that officially don't exist. How to gather intelligence without being detected. How to neutralize threats without leaving evidence." She paused. "How to be a weapon that doesn't look like one." "You're talking about—" "I'm talking about nothing, officially." She met his eyes. "But unofficially? I'm talking about 2 years in schools where they teach you to kill with your hands, infiltrate secure locations, speak like a native in 4 languages, and disappear without a trace. I'm talking about operations in Syria, Yemen, places that would get redacted from any report you tried to file." Adrian felt cold despite the mild night. "Why tell me this?" "Because you've earned it. Because you're the first person in a long time who's treated me like a human being instead of an asset or a threat." She looked away. "And because after what happened today, you deserve to know who you're standing next to." "I already knew." "You knew I was dangerous. You didn't know how dangerous." "Does it matter?" "It should." "But does it?" Elena looked at him again. Something shifted in her expression. Surprise, maybe? Or recognition? "No, I suppose it doesn't." They sat together as the stars wheeled overhead. Adrian thought about fathers and daughters, about anger and purpose, about the weight of secrets carried in silence. "My knee," he said suddenly. "It's not going to get better. Doc says I need surgery or I'll lose mobility completely. Maybe lose the leg." "I know. How do you—" "I've seen enough injuries to recognize the signs. You're compensating constantly, favoring the left. Your gait is deteriorating." She was clinical again, factual. "You have maybe 3 months before it's catastrophic. Less if you keep pushing it. So I should take the medical discharge, go home, get fixed." "You should, but you won't." "How do you know?" "Because you're like me. You don't know what to do with yourself if you're not here, doing this." She stood. "The difference is, my body still works. Yours is failing. And when it fails completely, you won't have a choice anymore." She walked away before he could respond. Adrian sat alone, knee throbbing, staring at nothing. She was right. She was always right. And he hated it. The next morning brought visitors. 2 helicopters landed at 700, Blackhawks, sleek and lethal, carrying people who didn't belong at a place like Red Basin. Lieutenant Kessler assembled everyone in the compound. Adrian stood with his team, watching as a woman in civilian clothes emerged from the lead helicopter. Mid-40s, dark hair pulled back, eyes that missed nothing. Behind her, 4 men in tactical gear. Not regular military. Something else. "Who the hell is that?" Matthews whispered. "Trouble," Rodriguez muttered. The woman walked straight to Kessler, showed credentials. Kessler's face went carefully blank. Then the woman's eyes found Elena in the assembled crowd. "Specialist Vargas," she called. "With me, now." Elena didn't hesitate, didn't look at anyone, just walked across the compound and followed the woman into the operations tent. The door closed. "What the hell?" Chen said. Kessler addressed the assembled personnel. "Return to your duties. This doesn't concern you." "Who were those people?" someone asked. "Not your concern." Kessler's voice had an edge. "Dismissed." The crowd dispersed reluctantly. Adrian stayed, limping toward Kessler. "Ma'am, I don't know, Cole, and even if I did, I couldn't tell you." Kessler looked genuinely frustrated. "Those credentials were 3 levels above my clearance. All I know is they're here for Vargas, and we're supposed to pretend this never happened." "Are they pulling her out?" "I don't know." Adrian felt something twist in his chest. She saved lives, multiple times. If they're punishing her for that... "They're not punishing her. They're extracting her." Kessler lowered her voice. "Cole, whatever Vargas is, whoever she really works for, it's way beyond our pay grade. The best thing we can do is stay out of it. I can't just..." "Yes, you can, and you will. That's an order." Kessler's expression softened slightly. "I know you feel protective of her, I get it, but this is out of your hands." She walked away. Adrian stood in the compound, surrounded by activity he couldn't focus on, staring at the closed door of the operations tent. Inside, Elena sat across from the woman, Director Sarah Vance, though that name would never appear in any official record. "You were supposed to maintain cover," Vance said. Not angry, just stating facts. "I maintained it until maintaining it would have resulted in American casualties. You eliminated 5 hostiles in close quarters, in front of witnesses. I eliminated threats to my team." "Your team?" Vance's eyebrow raised. "Since when do you have a team, Elena? You're a singleton. That's your designation. That's your function." "My function is to complete the mission. The mission was to gather intelligence on hostile networks in this region. I can't do that if I'm dead." "You could have extracted, called for support. Let Pike and his idiots face the consequences of their actions." Elena's jaw tightened. "Is that what you would have done?" Vance was silent. "I didn't think so," Elena said. They sat in tension-filled quiet. Outside, the base hummed with oblivious activity. "Your cover is compromised," Vance finally said. "The debriefing colonel is going to file a report. Questions will be asked. We can bury most of it, but not all. So pull me out." "Is that what you want?" Elena hesitated. "It's what makes sense." "That's not what I asked." Another silence. Elena thought about Adrian's team, about Matthew's terrible jokes, and Rodriguez's quiet competence, and Chen's enthusiasm. About the way they'd pulled together when it mattered, about Adrian himself, broken knee and all, refusing to quit. "I have work here," she said quietly. "Intelligence gathering, network mapping. The hostile elements in this region are connected to larger operations. If I leave now, we lose visibility. We can send someone else." "Someone else won't have the relationships I've built." Vance's expression shifted, something knowing. "Relationships, is that what we're calling it?" "I'm talking about operational effectiveness." "Are you?" Elena met Vance's eyes. "Yes." "You're lying. You're very good at most things, Elena, but you're a terrible liar when it comes to personal matters." Vance leaned back. "You've gotten attached. To the team. To Cole, specifically." "That's not..." "Don't bother denying it. I've read the reports. The way you've positioned yourself as support instead of lead. The way you've deflected attention instead of claiming credit. The compression sleeve you gave Cole from your personal kit." Vance's voice was gentle, almost kind. "You care about these people. That's dangerous for someone in your position. Caring doesn't compromise my effectiveness." "Doesn't it? What happens when you have to choose between the mission and protecting Cole? Between gathering intelligence and keeping your team safe? I'll make the right call." "Will you?" Elena didn't answer. Vance stood, walked to the window overlooking the compound. I'm leaving you in place. For now. But Elena, if you start making decisions based on emotion instead of logic, I'll pull you out myself, understood? Understood. Good. Vance turned back. The hostile network you've been tracking. New intelligence suggests they're planning something significant, possibly targeting this base or the supply routes. I need you focused on that, not on playing soldier with your new friends. Yes, ma'am. I'm serious, Elena. The work we do, the real work, requires isolation, requires being able to walk away when necessary. If you can't do that anymore, tell me now. Elena thought about her father, about the last conversation they'd had before Kandahar, when he told her that caring too much was how you got killed. She'd spent years building walls, staying separate, staying focused, but those walls had cracks now, small ones, growing. I can do it, she said. I hope so. Vance headed for the door. Because if you can't, a lot of people are going to die, and it'll be on you. She left. Elena sat alone in the operations tent, surrounded by maps and equipment and the ghost of her father's voice telling her to stay cold, stay sharp, stay alive. Outside, Adrian was waiting. You good? He asked when she emerged. Fine. That's not what I asked. She almost smiled. I'm functional. Better. He fell into step beside her, limping. What did they want? To remind me of my job. Which is? Classified. Right, obviously. They walked in silence for a bit. Are they pulling you out? Not yet. But eventually? Maybe. Probably. She stopped, looked at him. My rotation here was always temporary, you knew that. I know. His expression was complicated. Doesn't mean I have to like it. Liking things is optional. Accepting them is mandatory. Is that from your manual? How to be a motionless operative? Chapter 3, actually, right after how to avoid attachment and before how to disappear without a trace. This time she did smile. Just slightly. Just enough. Adrian smiled back. You're getting better at humor. Or worse. I'm not sure which. They reached the mess hall, the smell of coffee and something allegedly breakfast wafted out. Join me? Adrian asked. Elena hesitated. Everything in her training said no. Maintain distance. Stay separate. Don't get comfortable. But the walls had cracks. And maybe, just maybe, that wasn't the worst thing. Yeah, she said. Okay. They sat together at her usual table in the corner. Matthews joined them, then Rodriguez, then Chen. The team, assembled without planning, drawn together by something that couldn't be measured or mapped. So, Matthews said, pouring syrup on something that might have been pancakes. Anyone want to talk about the spy lady who showed up in a helicopter? No, Elena said. Cool, just making conversation. Make different conversation. Fair enough. Matthews took a bite, grimaced. How about this weather, huh? Hot, sandy, terrible. Outstanding observation, Rodriguez deadpanned. I'm a man of many talents. Chen laughed. Name one. I can eat this food without vomiting. That's a talent. That's not a talent. That's a medical condition. They bantered. Elena listened. Adrian watched her listening, saw something in her expression he hadn't seen before. Peace. Almost. Later, after the meal, after the dispersal, Adrian found himself back in the operations tent with Kessler. How's the knee? She asked. Terrible. Getting worse. You need to take the medical discharge, Cole. I know. But you won't. Not yet. He shifted weight, felt the joint grind. After this rotation, after we figure out what the hostiles are planning, after Vargas leaves. Adrian stopped, looked at her. Kessler's expression was knowing. You're not as subtle as you think, Sergeant. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you don't. She pulled up a file on her computer. New intelligence came in while you were eating. Intercepted communications suggest the hostile network is planning a coordinated strike within the next 72 hours. Target? Unknown. Could be us. Could be supply convoys. Could be civilian infrastructure in the region. She pulled up a map. But the chatter's increased. Activity's spiking. Something's coming. Adrian studied the map, saw the patterns, the movements. We need to find out what. That's where Vargas comes in. Her signals intelligence background, her language skills. She's our best chance at intercepting and decoding their communications. Does she know? I'm briefing her next. But Cole, Kessler looked at him seriously. This is dangerous work. Real spy shit, not soldier shit. If she gets caught, there's no cavalry coming, no air support. Just her, alone, doing what she was trained to do. She can handle it. That's not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about what happens to you if she can't. Adrian didn't have an answer for that. That night, Elena worked. She set up in the signals intelligence room, a closet-sized space filled with receivers and encryption equipment. Adrian watched from the doorway as she moved through frequencies, isolating voices, recording, transcribing. Her Arabic was flawless, native level. She didn't just translate, she understood context, idiom, subtext. There, she said suddenly. Got something. Adrian moved closer. What? Coded language. They're talking about a delivery. Tomorrow night. Grid coordinates. She wrote them down. That's 30 clicks southwest, near the main supply route. An ambush? Possibly. Or they're moving something big. Weapons, personnel, explosives. She kept listening. They mentioned the package. That's not standard terminology. It's specific. VIP or ordnance. High-value target either way. She worked for hours. Adrian brought her coffee, food she didn't eat, water she barely touched. Watched her lose herself in the work, becoming a machine of analysis and deduction. This was who she really was, not the quiet specialist who did maintenance and avoided conversation. This, the operative, the weapon. At 0300, she finally stopped, pulled off her headphones, looked exhausted for the first time since Adrian had met her. Got it, she said. Full operation plan. They're moving a truck bomb. 2,000 pounds of explosives. Target is the regional command center in Al-Qasr. That's a civilian area. I know. Her voice was flat, empty. Estimated casualties, 500 plus. Adrian felt cold. When? Tomorrow night, 2100 hours. We need to... I already sent the intel up the chain. Command is coordinating a response. She stood, swayed slightly. It's out of our hands now. You did good work. I did my job. Elena, I'm tired, Cole. I need to sleep. She walked past him. He caught her arm gently. She stopped. Thank you, he said, for caring enough to do this, even when you're not supposed to. She looked at his hand on her arm, didn't pull away. Who says I'm not supposed to? Your boss, in the helicopter. She doesn't know everything. Does anyone? No. Elena met his eyes. That's the point. She left. Adrian stood in the signals room, surrounded by equipment and evidence of prevented catastrophe. And he realized something he'd been avoiding. He was falling for her. Not the idea of her, not the mystery or the competence or the way she moved like smoke and fought like lightning. Just her. Elena. The woman who gave him her compression sleeve and told him to stop lying. Who made terrible jokes with perfect delivery. Who saved lives because it was the right thing to do, even when it meant compromising her cover. And she was leaving. Soon. The thought hurt worse than his ruined knee. The next evening, word came through. The truck bomb had been intercepted, disposed of. Cell members arrested. 500 lives saved because Elena had listened to voices in static and understood what they meant. No one at Red Basin knew except Kessler, Adrian, and Elena herself. No recognition, no awards, no acknowledgement. Just another day. Another mission. Another secret added to the pile. Adrian found Elena on the hood of a Humvee again, watching the sunset paint the desert in impossible colors. Heard the news, he said, climbing up beside her. Yeah. 500 people are alive tonight because of you. 500 people I'll never meet, who'll never know, who'll go about their lives completely unaware. She was quiet. That's the job. Does it bother you, the anonymity? Sometimes, she paused. My father used to say the best operators are ghosts. We pass through the world without leaving traces. No footprints, no echoes, no proof we were ever there. That sounds lonely. It is. She looked at him. But lately it's been less lonely, which is its own kind of problem. Because of the team? Because of you. The admission hung between them, raw, honest, dangerous. Elena, don't. She held up a hand. Don't make this complicated. Don't try to fix it or solve it or make it into something it can't be. Just let it exist. Adrian wanted to argue, wanted to tell her they could figure it out, make it work, find a way. But he knew better. She was a ghost. He was a broken soldier. Their paths had crossed briefly, burned bright, and would separate soon. That was the reality. So instead of arguing, he just sat with her, watched the sun disappear. Let the moment exist without trying to hold it or change it or make it into something it wasn't. And for a little while, that was enough. The stars came out. The desert breathed. Tomorrow would bring new problems, new missions, new reasons to stay separate. But tonight, they sat together in silence, two people carrying impossible weights, finding brief rest in the space between words. The silence stretched between them as the last light bled from the sky. Adrian's knee ached, always ached now. But he didn't move, didn't want to break whatever fragile thing was happening on the hood of this Humvee in the middle of nowhere. My rotation ends in 6 days, Elena said finally. Adrian felt the words like a physical blow. 6 days. Yes. Where will you go? Wherever they send me, that's how it works. Right, he swallowed. Obviously. She turned to look at him. In the gathering darkness, her eyes were shadows. What about you? What happens when your knee finally gives out? I don't know. Medical discharge, surgery, physical therapy for a year, then... He trailed off. Then what? I have no idea. I've been doing this for so long, I don't remember what else I'm supposed to be. That's the problem with building your whole life around one thing, Elena said. When that thing ends, you're left with nothing but questions. Sounds like you're speaking from experience. I am. She looked back at the stars. My father died doing what he loved. Part of me envied that. Clean ending. No questions about what comes after. That's dark. That's realistic. She was quiet for a moment. But lately I've been thinking, maybe questions aren't the worst thing. Maybe not knowing what comes next is just another way of saying the story isn't finished. Adrian wanted to ask what she meant. Wanted to push, to understand, to map the terrain of her thoughts the way they'd mapped hostile territory. But before he could speak, the base alarms went off. They were off the Humvee and running before the second siren wailed. Adrian's knee screamed in protest, but he ignored it, muscle memory overriding pain. Kessler was in the operations center, surrounded by screens showing thermal imaging and radar contacts. What have we got? Adrian demanded. Inbound vehicles. Multiple contacts. Coming fast from the north. Kessler pointed to the display. At least 6 technicals, maybe more. They're not trying to hide. How long? 15 minutes, maybe less. Elena was already at the communication station, fingers flying across keyboards. I'm reading active jamming again. Same signature as before. They're trying to cut us off from command. Can you punch through? Working on it. Her voice was ice calm. But if they're jamming this hard, they don't want witnesses. Whatever they're planning, it's not a probe. It's an assault, Kessler finished. They're coming for us. The base erupted into controlled chaos. Soldiers running to defensive positions, weapons being distributed, heavy machine guns mounted on fortified points. Adrian found Matthews, Rodriguez, and Chen assembling near the armory. Gear up, he ordered. Full combat load, this is the real thing. About damn time, Rodriguez muttered, checking his rifle. You say that now, Matthews said. Wait until bullets start flying. I've been shot at before. Not like this, you haven't. They geared up fast. Plates, magazines, grenades, everything they could carry. Adrian's knee protested every movement, but he strapped on the brace, tightened it until it cut circulation, and kept moving. Elena appeared, carrying equipment he didn't recognize. Compact, technical, definitely not standard issue. What is that? Chen asked. Insurance. She didn't elaborate. Cole, I need to be on the roof of the operations center, high ground, clear line of sight to the northern approach. Your communication's not a sniper. I'm whatever I need to be. She met his eyes. Trust me. He did. That was the problem. He trusted her completely, which was insane considering how little he actually knew about her. Go, he said. Take Chen with you. I want someone watching your back. I don't need to... That wasn't a request. Something flickered in her expression. Surprise. Maybe respect. She nodded. Fine. Chen, you're with me. They disappeared into the darkness. Adrian turned to Matthews and Rodriguez. We're holding the northern barricade. That's where they'll hit hardest. Just us? Matthews asked. Us and whoever Kessler assigns. But we're the line. We hold or we die. Those are the options. Motivating speech, Sarge, Rodriguez said dryly. I'm not here to motivate. I'm here to keep you alive. Adrian chambered around. Let's move. The northern barricade was sandbags and concrete barriers, hastily reinforced over the past few days. A dozen soldiers manned it, weapons trained on the darkness beyond the perimeter. Adrian took position center, knee locked in the brace, trying not to think about what would happen if he had to move fast. The jamming made their radios useless for external communication, but short range still worked. Kessler's voice crackled through. All positions, stand by. Contacts now, 10 minutes out. 10 minutes felt like 10 hours. Adrian's hands were steady on his rifle. Training took over, breathing slowed, vision sharpened. Everything narrowed to simple math, threat identification, target acquisition, trigger discipline. Beside him, Matthews was vibrating with nervous energy. I really hate waiting. Everyone hates waiting. Yeah, but I hate it more. Shut up, Matthews. Shutting up, Sarge. The night was too quiet. No insects, no wind, just the hum of generators and the sound of 73 soldiers trying not to breathe too loud. Then, headlights. Multiple sets, bouncing across the desert terrain. Contact, someone shouted. Hold fire, Adrian ordered. Wait for the call. The vehicles came closer, fast, aggressive, no hesitation. Kessler's voice. All positions, weapons free. I repeat, weapons free. The world exploded into sound and light. Machine guns opened up from the defensive positions. Tracers streaked across the darkness. The lead vehicle took hits, swerved, rolled. But there were more behind it, many more. Return fire came in, heavy, sustained, professional. These weren't random insurgents. They were trained. Contact right, Rodriguez yelled. Adrian swung his rifle, saw movement in the shadows. Fired. 3-round burst. Movement stopped. The technical that had rolled exploded. Secondary detonation, probably loaded with explosives. The blast wave hit the barricade, showering them with debris. Stay down, Adrian shouted. Another vehicle broke through the burning wreckage, heading straight for them. Someone had mounted a heavy machine gun on the back. It opened up, rounds chewing through sandbags. Adrian felt something tug his sleeve, looked down. Bullet hole, 2 inches from his arm. Too close. He returned fire, aiming for the gunner. Hit him. The gun went silent, but the vehicle kept coming. Grenade! Matthews threw it, perfect arc, landed in the truck bed. The explosion flipped the vehicle. It landed upside down, burning. Holy shit, Matthews breathed. Did you see that? I saw it. Do it again. I'm out of grenades. Then shoot something. They fought. Minutes that felt like hours. The attack came in waves, vehicles, dismounted infantry, coordinated fire. The defenders held, but barely. Adrian's knee was on fire. Every shot, every movement sent pain lancing through him. The brace was slipping. He could feel it. Then Kessler's voice, urgent. Cole, they're trying to flank. Eastern perimeter. I need you there now. We're holding the north. I don't care. Eastern perimeter is thin and they know it. If they breach there, they're inside our lines. Move. Adrian looked at Matthews and Rodriguez. Hold here. I'm going east. Your knee, Matthews started. I know about my knee. Just hold this position. He ran, or tried to. His leg buckled on the 3rd step. He caught himself, kept moving. Pain was just information. He could ignore information. The eastern perimeter was chaos. 3 soldiers down, the rest falling back. Hostiles were at the wire, cutting through. Adrian dropped to one knee, his good knee, and started firing, methodical, controlled. One target, then another, then another. But there were too many. A figure appeared in his peripheral vision. He swung his rifle. Elena. She moved through the hostile forces like a ghost. No wasted motion, no hesitation. In 10 seconds, 5 men were down. Not wounded, down. She materialized beside him, breathing steady. Your knee gave out. I'm fine. You're collapsing. Chen, she spoke into her radio. Cover the east. We're pulling back. I'm not. Yes, you are. She hauled him up, supporting his weight. You can't fight if you can't stand. She was right. His leg wouldn't support him anymore. The brace had failed. Something inside the joint had finally broken completely. Chen appeared, weapon blazing, covering their withdrawal. They fell back to the secondary line as more defenders moved up to fill the gap. Elena lowered Adrian behind a barrier. Stay here. Where are you? But she was gone, back into the fight, moving with purpose toward the operations center roof. Adrian tried to stand. Fell. His knee was useless now. A liability. Everything he'd feared. Kessler's voice on the radio. They're pulling back. Repeat. Hostiles are withdrawing. Adrian looked up. The attacking vehicles were turning, retreating. Not defeated, just stopping. Why? Then he saw it. On the horizon, lights, many lights, military convoy, heavy armor. Support had arrived. The hostiles had seen it too, knew they couldn't win against superior firepower. They vanished into the desert like smoke. The firing stopped. The silence that followed was deafening. Medics appeared, triaging wounded. Adrian was carried to the medical tent despite his protests. Doc Harrison took one look at his knee and started swearing. I told you, Harrison said, cutting away the brace. I told you this would happen. Just fix it. I can't fix it here. You need a real hospital, orthopedic surgery, pins, screws, maybe a full replacement. Harrison's hands were gentle despite his harsh words. You're done, Cole. Active duty is over. Adrian closed his eyes. Knew it was true, had known for months, but hearing it spoken made it real. How long? He asked. Until you can walk without assistance? 6 months minimum. Until you're fully recovered? A year. Maybe never fully. Harrison injected something into Adrian's IV. But you'll live. That's more than Johnson got. The words hit hard, true and brutal. Adrian drifted on whatever Harrison had given him. Painkillers. Strong ones. The world went soft around the edges. When he woke, it was morning. His knee was immobilized in a temporary cast. The medical tent was full. Wounded soldiers, exhausted medics, the aftermath of violence. Elena sat in a chair beside his bed, reading a report. You stayed, Adrian said. His voice was rough. She looked up. You're awake. How bad? We lost 3. 11 wounded, including you. The convoy arrived with reinforcements and medical supplies. The hostiles are being tracked. She set down the report. Kessler is recommending you for a commendation. So am I. For what? Getting myself crippled? For holding the line when it mattered. Her voice was flat, but her eyes weren't. Matthews said you held the North until ordered elsewhere. Rodriguez said you defended the East even when you couldn't stand. That's not crippled. That's courage. Felt more like stupidity. Often the same thing, she paused. Harrison says you're being medevaced stateside tomorrow morning. Tomorrow. So soon. What about you? Adrian asked. My orders haven't changed. 6 days, then I'm gone. Where? Classified. Of course. He tried to sit up, failed. Will I ever see you again? Elena was quiet for a long time. Probably not. The honesty hurt worse than his knee. That's it then, Adrian said. We just end, like we never happened. That's how these things work. But something in her voice cracked slightly. People intersect briefly, then diverge. It's math. I really hate your math metaphors. I know. They sat in silence. Outside, the base was returning to normal. Repairs being made, defenses reinforced, life continuing. I lied, Elena said suddenly. About what? About not getting attached. About staying separate. She looked at him directly. I told myself for years that I couldn't afford connections. That being alone made me effective. But you, your team, you made me realize that's not strength. It's just fear wearing a different uniform. Adrian felt his throat tighten. Elena, let me finish. She took a breath. My father taught me to be a weapon. The military refined it. I became very good at being alone, at being ice, at being whatever the mission required. But the cost was everything else. I forgot how to be human, how to care, how to matter to someone beyond operational value. You matter, Adrian said. To me, to Matthews and Rodriguez and Chen, to everyone you saved. I know, and that terrifies me. She smiled, but it was sad. Because now I have to leave. Have to go back to being the ghost, and it's going to be harder this time. Then don't go. It's not that simple. Why not? Because the work matters. The people I save by staying in the shadows, they matter. 500 lives in Alcázar. The convoy drivers who didn't get ambushed because I intercepted communications. The soldiers who will live because I'm gathering intelligence no one else can. She paused. I can do more good as a ghost than as a person. Adrian understood. Hated it, but understood. So this is goodbye. Not yet. You leave tomorrow. I leave in 6 days. She reached out, took his hand. Her skin was warm, real. We have today. They had today. The hours passed too fast. Elena stayed with him through the afternoon. They didn't talk much, just existed together. Sometimes Matthews or Rodriguez or Chen would visit, bringing terrible jokes and worse coffee. Kessler stopped by with official paperwork and unofficial gratitude. You did good work here, Cole, she said. Not many people would have held through what you did. Had good people beside me. You did. Kessler glanced at Elena. Very good people. As evening approached, Elena helped Adrian outside. He was on crutches now, awkward and slow, but mobile. They found a quiet spot away from the bustle, the same place they'd sat that first night, watching stars. What will you do? Elena asked. After surgery, after recovery. Honestly, I have no idea. Maybe teach, maybe work with veterans, maybe just figure out who I am when I'm not wearing a uniform. That's terrifying. Yeah. But also brave. I don't feel brave. I feel lost. Lost can be another word for free, Elena said. No predetermined path, no mission parameters, just choices. Is that what you want? Freedom? She thought about it. I don't know. I've never had it long enough to want it. The mission always comes first. Maybe that could change. Maybe. But she sounded doubtful. Or maybe I'm too broken to be anything else. You're not broken. You're just precisely calibrated for a specific purpose. She laughed, actually laughed, short and surprised. That's the nicest way anyone's ever called me a weapon. You're not a weapon. You're a person who happens to be very good at certain things. Same difference. No, it's not. Adrian shifted on his crutches. A weapon doesn't choose. You do. Every day you choose to use what you are for something that matters. That's not being a weapon. That's being human. Elena looked at him for a long moment. You're going to make this really hard, aren't you? What? Leaving. Good. Mom, the sunset burned orange and red across the desert. Beautiful and terrible, like everything out here. I have something for you, Elena said suddenly. She pulled out a small object, a relay component, the kind she'd built on their first mission. I know it's not much, but you're giving me a radio part? It's the relay I built on the mountain, the one that kept transmitting after we left. She pressed it into his hand. I went back for it, after the fight, cleaned it up, made sure it still worked. Adrian turned it over in his hands, small, unassuming, but built with precision and care. Why? Because it represents something. A transmission that keeps going even when no one's there to hear it. A signal that doesn't stop just because the mission ended. She was quiet. I wanted you to have it. To remember that just because something ends doesn't mean it didn't matter. Adrian felt something break loose in his chest, something that had been locked down for a very long time. I won't forget you. I know. Will you forget me? No. Her voice was certain. I don't forget the people who matter. They sat together as the sun disappeared. Tomorrow Adrian would leave on a medical helicopter, bound for Germany and then the States. Surgery, recovery. A future that was blank and terrifying and somehow full of possibility. Elena would stay another 6 days. Then she'd disappear into whatever shadows her mission required, becoming a ghost again, saving lives no one would ever know about. Their paths had intersected, briefly. Burned bright. Now they would diverge. That was the reality. But for tonight, they had this moment, this quiet space between who they'd been and who they'd become. "Thank you," Adrian said, "for everything. For saving my life. For showing me what real strength looks like. For being human when everyone expected you to be something else." "Thank you for seeing me," Elena replied. "The real me. Not the weapon or the asset or the mystery. Just Elena. Always Elena." The stars came out. The desert breathed. And two people who'd found each other in the middle of nowhere held on for just a little while longer before letting go. The next morning came too fast. The medical helicopter arrived at 700, rotors churning dust into temporary clouds. Adrian stood on crutches, knee immobilized, surrounded by his team saying goodbyes. Matthews hugged him despite the awkwardness. "Don't be a stranger, Sarge." "I'll try not to." Rodriguez shook his hand firmly. "Take care of that knee. Get it fixed right." "Will do." Chen just nodded, words caught somewhere between professional and personal. "It was an honor, sir." "Honor was mine." Then Elena appeared. She didn't say anything, just handed him a sealed envelope. "Don't open it until you're stateside," she said. "What is it?" "A frequency, encrypted. If you ever need to reach me, really need to, life or death, use it." She paused. "It probably won't work. I move around a lot. But maybe." "Maybe," Adrian repeated. The medics were calling for him. Time to go. Elena stepped forward, hugged him, brief, firm, completely unexpected. "Be brave," she whispered. "Not soldier brave, human brave. Figure out who you are. Build something that matters." Then she stepped back, expression neutral again, walls rebuilt. Adrian wanted to say 1,000 things. Wanted to tell her he loved what she'd shown him about strength and silence and sacrifice. Wanted to ask her to stay, to choose something different, to be free. But he knew she couldn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. So he just nodded. "You too." "I'll try." He climbed into the helicopter. The doors closed. The rotors spun up. Through the window he watched Red Basin shrink away. The base that had broken him and rebuilt him. The desert that had taught him what mattered. And Elena, standing alone in the compound, watching him leave. Not waving, just watching. Until distance made her disappear. 6 months later, Adrian was in physical therapy in San Diego, relearning how to walk without pain. His knee would never be perfect. The surgeon had been clear about that. But it was functional, stable, good enough. He'd started taking classes at the local college. Wasn't sure what he was studying yet. Just exploring, finding out what interested him when the military wasn't telling him what to care about. Matthews called once a week. Rodriguez sent emails. Chen was getting married and wanted Adrian at the wedding.